So I don't have a whole lot of time to record today, so let's get straight to the point. Today's video is going to be all about Topologic Bomber. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I get into the deck list, if you're enjoying today's video and want to see more content just like this in the future, especially if you're a returning viewer, as apparently about 50% of people watching this or even subscribe to the channel, generally all of you are returning viewers who have seen my content before. So if you find yourself keep coming back to the channel and want to see more content just like this in the future, remember to leave a like on this video and consider subscribing down below. Alright, let's get into the deck list. So today's deck list is obviously going to be Decode Talker, but it's had a significant upgrade, with 2 new cards being introduced to the archetype, 1 brand new boss monster, and a fantastic consistency card the deck desperately needed since it got its Lady Debug limited. The consistency card is going to be Summoner Monk, and this card is incredible for this particular deck list, because simply, this card when it's on the field can discard any spell card from hand, which you'll notice I'm running a shit ton of them, and once it does so, special summon out any level 4 straight from your deck, which will generally be, or will 100% of the time be, your Lady Debug, as this card when it's special summoned just activates its search effect, which as you guys know is the main starter for your Decode Talker. So now we essentially have access to more copies of Lady Debug. Even with only owning 2 Cynet Mining, my deck is extremely consistent. But by the way, if you have 3 copies of Cynet Mining, you should probably stuff another one in here. It's the best searcher in the deck list. I just only own 2, so I'm only playing 2. But since we now have Summoner Monk, this deck list is still incredibly consistent, as I now have Summoner Monk, I have the 2 Debug, and I have the 2 Cynet Mining. The other important thing to note about your Summoner Monk is that although you're discarding a card from your hand, it doesn't really affect your combo too much, as the replacement for that is you're actually ending with an extra monster on the board that you don't normally have. So you have your Lady Debug, you have your Summoner Monk, and you have whatever you search for from your Debug. This makes it extremely easy to go into your boss monsters, as all your boss monsters don't actually take Cyverse monsters, they just take effect monsters. They just take monsters. This one also just takes effect monsters. So it essentially just gives you an extra body that you can use to link summon very, very easily. Then we have the brand new boss monster, Topologic Bomber Dragon. Now normally I don't recommend running 2 Link 4s in a singular deck list in Duel Links, simply because you don't really get to go into 2 Link 4s all that often in most games. But with Decode Talker, this is just completely different, because this deck list, one, you get to choose to go into either one whenever you like, and it's entirely matchup dependent, and it's very reliant on the matchup. So for example, if you want to go into Topologic Bomber Dragon, you don't want to go into it against something like Salad, where they have Balinks in the graveyard, or you don't want to go into it against something like Rocket, where just destroying their cards gives them floats. Plenty of other sort of matchups where going to Bomber Dragon just doesn't really help you all that much, so you just go into your Firewall Dragon. But likewise, Firewall Dragon is only actually 1 pop, or 1 return to hand, and once you've used it, you can't use it again, whereas this card just continuously uses its effect over and over and over, so it's generally the better removal, but depending on the matchup, Firewall is just the better removal. And there's also plenty of occasions where Firewall will lead to an OTK, but your Bomber Dragon just simply won't. And likewise, Bomber Dragon will lead to an OTK, and your Firewall simply won't. So running both these cards in this deck list is actually, I would say, a necessity. It's also important to note, just because of how your skill works, you're going to be getting out Link 3s on the field fairly regularly. So once you've done your initial turn 1 combo, set up your Link 4, then on the following turn, it's quite likely you'll just summon out another level 3. That way you can just summon out any monster and make your other Link 4. So going to 2 Link 4s in one game isn't unheard of in this deck list, and say it's actually quite common, so you definitely need to run 2 Link 4s in this deck list, and these are the 2 you should definitely be running. Alright, let's talk this card's card effects. If another monster is special summoned to a zone a Link monster points to while this monster's on the field, destroy all monsters in the main monster zones. Also, your other monsters cannot attack for the rest of this turn. After damage calculation, if this card attacks an opponent's monster, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half that monster's original attack. So there's plenty of things to unpack with this card's effect. First of all, its sort of destruction effect, you'll notice, isn't a once per turn. So if something's ever summoned to a Link arrow, you're just nuking the entire field. And then if your opponent does it again, you just nuke the field again. This card is basically an effect that will just happen basically infinitely until it's removed. But also keep in mind, it's a mandatory effect. So don't go summoning something to your own Link arrow hoping to go for a sort of Link play or something, because you're going to be nuking the field. The other thing I want to point out with this card's card effect, as a lot of people do miss it, is that after it's used its nuke effect, you can only attack with this monster that turn. Do keep that in mind, as it will come up a lot, and you'll forget about it a lot. So you'll try to go for an OTK, and you'll find out, I can't actually lethal my opponent here. So do keep that in mind. The only time you're going to be sort of OTKing with this card, even with its strong sort of nuke effect, is when you're activating it in combination with your addition, which when summoned gives this card an extra 1000 attack, which is a nice way to get your 4000 attack and also get your board nuke off. But other than that, you're not really going to be OTKing all that often with this card. As for the rest of the deck list, it's all just your standard Code Talker kind of stuff. You've probably all seen it before, and if you haven't, you'll see all the effects going off in the gameplay anyway, and I'll explain it then, so without further ado, let's just get into some replays. Alright, so for those of you that are concerned about win rates and stuff, this deck list I think I climbed from, I think it was Plat 5 or 6, all the way to Legend 3 with it. Although I used quite a few different variants, this is the one that I found the most success with and was the one that I climbed through the Legend ranks with, so this is the one I ended up on. But very insane win rate. You'll notice from my match history, I think I've only got 2 losses in here. With some of the other variants, I had some absolutely abysmal win rates, but with this one, it just seemed to all click really well. Especially after I added some of the yoinking cards, as yoinking in this deck list is so damn good when you have a bunch of monsters that just are generic, so yeah, I liked all the yoinking effects. Alright, let's get into the replays. These replays are actually some banger ones too. I had some Goki ones, I had some... I've forgotten, I had some Galaxy Eyes ones, I had plenty of matchups that were sort of meta relevant. Alright, this first one I think was it the Goki? Might be a Goki matchup, I'm not sure. Alright, so this is going to show off the Summoner Monk combo. So Summoner Monk discarding, summoning out my Lady Debug from the deck, Lady Debug searching for Secretary. Secretary, because I have Cyburst on the field, can special summon itself. Now I have a level 4 and a level 3, which is important to note because level matters for the card I'm about to summon. The Elphase, because Elphase doesn't just take any Cyburst monsters, it's 2 level 3 or higher ones. Now I'm going to link summon using my microcoder in hand to summon out my Decode Talker. Doing this is important because it'll give you a search from the microcoder, and your Elphase will then summon back a card from the graveyard, which can't be used as link material. That can definitely be used with a nice Cynet Crosswipe. Alright, so searching for a copy of another Crosswipe. Code Talker alive because I have my dude on field to set my trap card. Summon out Firewall. Some banger animations going on here. Alright, I probably won't show these animations for every replay, but we'll show them a couple of times at least. Alright, now I can activate my Recoder Light to move back to the field. Honestly, I think this is sort of a misplay. I think I should just do this during my opponent's turn to maybe bait out an MST or some other sort of back row removal, but I decided to do now here anyway. It does sort of play around Cosmic Cyclone a little bit, since this is a trap card that's activatable in the graveyard. Alright. Opponent summons a Goki, summons another Goki. Unfortunately, it's not the Goki he's looking for. That wouldn't have mattered anyway, as I had 2 pops, which would have definitely removed any of his Link 3s he tries to summon. Pop his 1 back row and he just concedes. Didn't even have to use the Firewall bounce effect. Alright. So that's just an example combo of your Summoner Monk. It's also really, it can be kind of hard to decide whether or not you want to summon your Bomber Dragon or you want to summon your Firewall turn 1, as you can summon either of them. It doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter, but it's hard to summon either of them, so it's really hard to tell because the only real judging way is by what your opponent's character is. So that's why I didn't summon the Bomber Dragon last turn, as I didn't know what my opponent was playing, so I'm like, I'm just going to summon Firewall to be safe, because I think Firewall's the more generic option I'm going to go with, because there's a lot more matchups where Firewall can be useful into. I think Firewall's useful into most matchups, where Bomber can be countered in some matchups, I think, is just sort of how it goes. Because yeah, I think Bomber Dragon's the stronger one, but at the same time it's also the one that can be countered a bit easier. Alright, Debug, searching for my Code Talker, or my microcoder. Once again, summoning out my backup Secretary, going to the Elphase. Summoning out Decode Talker. Give him the animation one more time. And we'll show Firewalls one more time too if I summon this duel. Oh no, don't summon Firewall this duel, because this is the, yeah. So I saw my opponent was playing Bandit Keith. Now Bandit Keith I know is going to be playing Madolche, as that's the flavor of the month deck for him, as they're all playing the Switcheroo skill. So I know this guy's playing Madolche, and I also know Madolche's main combo will summon 3 cards to the field. There's sort of a pseudo combo they can do if they happen to open the card they normally search for. If they just happen to open it without having to search for it, but that's only limit 1. It's pretty low chance. I'm banking on having to summon 3 monsters for his combo. So Elphase summoning a monster back to the field that can't be used as link material. That's fine because we search for the Crosswipe. Activate our Subtraction, summoning to the field, reducing attack. Link summoning into my Bomber Dragon. So now I have 2 pops and I have my trap to summon back. If my opponent ever summons Link to this 3rd column because he's pointing to a link arrow, he's going to get his board nuked. And as you'll see, this makes my opponent have a bit of a struggle here. He had a very long pause after this. He stopped here and was like, huh. Now what? Because normally this card has to summon out a level 5 and reduce its level. He doesn't want to do that because his entire field will get nuked. So he's like, huh. I guess I just don't use my card's effect. Which leads to, yeah, very suboptimal gameplay. Crosswipe, pop in that card, get it out of here. And from there, he's pretty much doomed. He's already got no cards in hand. He's already used his starter is in the graveyard, so... Even with his Ice Dragon's Prison, he can't really do anything. He Summon Among summons out another Summon Among. Yeah, I even had a Cynet Mining for a follow-up on the future turns, and I had my trap card still set, so... Yeah, that guy was pretty doomed. That was a good example of just why, like, a good matchup where you know the Topologic Bomber Dragon is going to actually just dick your opponent if you summon it, so... Alright, Galaxy Eyes. I think this was a good replay purely for playing around his negate, I think. Don't think I used any new cards in this one. Alright. Monster Reborn summons out his Galaxy Eyes. Blah blah blah. Not even gonna show that animation. We've seen all this before. This deck really needs a nerf by now. Not because it's like too OP or anything, even though it's still currently top tier. It's the fact it's been top tier since like whenever it was released. Like it's been like whenever the skill came out that made this deck absolutely broken. It's been too long. I feel like this deck definitely needs to sort of disappear now. It's also so common on the ladder. It just, yeah, I'm bored of this deck. Alright. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to search for my card that I know is a... Because all my other starters, they have a card effect they'll activate and my opponent will just negate it and I'll lose. Dotscaper is different. This card is also a starter, but it doesn't like use a card effect until it's in the graveyard. It's sort of a safer starter, as you'll see. So I can summon it, use its effect, and my opponent can't sort of stop it. So I can summon it, activate it in combination to summon out my Code Talker, Dotscaper in the grave can summon itself back to the field. Code Talker gets a search. It's actually chain blocking the Dotscaper, so my opponent can't negate this card's effect. He can negate the microcoder though. But we don't care because we get our card back, we have an extender in hand. So we can just go into our Decode Talker. Alright, I know I said I'm going to show this one more time, but the animation is pretty dope, so we'll show it again. Alright. Code Talker live, setting the trap card, going to our Link 4, Firewall Dragon. So Firewall Dragon is much better in this situation, as you'll see, because it leads to an OTK. That's why we summoned it over the Bomber Dragon. Also important to note, Cyber Dragon, or Cyber Dragon, your Galaxy Eyes is immune to destruction because it has this dude's equipped to him, so probably best I summon something that returns it to hand instead. Turning that to hand. Unfortunately, he has an MST, but that really doesn't matter. It's not even unfortunate, it's thankful he has an MST. No back row dealers. Alright, good stuff. Alright, next up. So you'll notice I think I have way more Firewall replays in here than I do Galaxy Eyes. It's just, I feel like that's sort of just how the meta is right now with the, not Galaxy Eyes. I have more Firewall replays in here than I do Bomber Dragon. It's just how the meta is. I just think Firewall just ends up being better into a lot of matchups, including ones like this one right here, where if I destroy my opponent's field, it just gets a bunch of floaters, so I just feel like it's a bit better. That can be kind of awkward for this guy, because if he has a lot of link carries, he has to play around. Alright, so this is a very suboptimal way to start, but it still works, because I have to, instead of searching for my Cynet removal spell, I have to search for a Cynet Mining for another discard, just to get the combo pieces in hand. It was very suboptimal, but it does sort of still work. And also, Cynet Mining discarding your Dotscaper is pretty good too, because it just comes back to the field, so it's not too bad. But I do end on one less removal than you normally end on. Like Decode Talker alive, going to my Firewall. Setting my cards and passing over. Don't have any reason to summon out my card yet, so I'm just going to chill for a bit. So I probably could summon it now, knowing he probably doesn't have MST or already used it already. Summon out my dude, wait for him to go into a link. As soon as he does so, that shit is going straight back into his extra deck. I just think I cracked down this one. Yeah, yoink it. So I'm like, oh, a link 2? A link 2 that I can use just as a generic material to go into any of my link 4s, or even my, actually my link 3 is being used, never mind. But I can go into my link 4 with it. Don't mind if I do. I also have an MST to pop this, so don't care. And still had my Firewall Dragon bounce if I wanted to, but he didn't summon anything else. Oh, he did summon something else, it was just, yeah. Goes into Quad Borrowed, then I remove it. I was thinking of a different replay. And he's just conceding. Alright. Next up. So I think this one was the Infernoid replay, I think. And the final replay was a Goki replay where I made sure that I was going to summon my Bomber Dragon. So I needed at least one more Bomber Dragon replay. That's sort of what the point of this video was, to show off Summon a Monk and of course Bomber Dragon. It's just you don't get to summon Bomber Dragon as much as I would like to. But I also didn't want to just throw a bunch of games just to show you guys that, oh look, I can summon Bomber Dragon, when it just wasn't a good situation to, which is why I haven't shown as many Bomber Dragon replays as I'd like to. MST targeting his one back row. Hit the 50-50 chance to hit the card that wasn't the card he would have activated in response. Alright, I activated my Mathmech Addition to try to bait out his negate. For some reason he actually negated here. People just clicked yes man. He just could not be bothered reading this card's effect. He assumed it was a negate or something, so he's just like, nope, negate that. So now I can just use my Summon a Monk in peace. Summon a Monk, discard. Summon out your Debug. Search for your backup secretary. Summon it to the field. Go into Elphase. Use my card in hand. Bring out Decode Talker. Alright, I'll show his animation again, okay? After playing so much Master Duel, I kind of miss these animations, even if they are like PS2 graphics quality. Alright, Elphase summoning back my dude. Microcoder getting a search. He's going to use his thing to DD Crow my Lady Debug, banishing it from the graveyard before it comes back to the field. This doesn't bother me, as the only reason I wanted it on the field was to use it for removal anyway, so it just sort of does what I was going to do anyway. Add Crosswipe, go to Talker alive, go into my Link 4, which will just instantly lead to an OTK if my opponent, yeah. Actually, it doesn't even lead to an OTK, because I think my opponent, plays it correctly. Because I want to activate the Trap card to bring back my dude, but if I do so, if I try to, he would just activate this card's effect in response to send the Decode Talker to the, or banish the Decode Talker. So I can't actually activate it, I have to get rid of this monster first. And I could have summoned back the dude there and swung into him, but obviously, probably Destiny Draw, not a good idea. Summons out his monster, I'm going to return that to hand. And as soon as I do, I've already counted his graveyard. I know he hasn't got enough materials in here, so he's just, yeah, he's dead. If he was able to summon it back, I still would have been able to bring back a Link 3 the next turn and try to go into a Link 4 if I top decked and go into my Topologic. So I was in a pretty good spot there. Alright, final replay. This is the final Bomber Dragon replay. Against a Goki player. I didn't even go into it turn 1, I'm pretty sure, because I think I had a brickier hand, if I remember correctly. There's also my rank up match for Legend 3 or whatever I went into. Alright, so this is actually a very bricky hand. So I'm just going to set my stuff and hope it's enough. I know the weak point in Goki is very, very obvious, thankfully. So I'm just going to let him do all his summons and then just hit the Link 3. Because that's the card you hit, by the way. If you're going to know how to stop Goki in their tracks, you just hit their Link 3. They just can't do anything afterwards. Even if they activate their spell card to bring back the 2 Gokis, it doesn't really lead to anything, as you'll see in this replay. So hit their Link 3, they don't get their extra normal summon, they just can't play the game. At least that's when I like to hit them. There might be some other place you can hit them that other people like, but personally, that's where I like to hit the card. can be kind of weird if you try to hit them when they're going into their Link 4, especially if they already have a card in the field, because they have the negate already ready for you. It feels just kind of awkward. So I wait for him to go Thunder Ogre, there it is, and now I'm going to remove it. And thankfully my Dotscaper, when removed by my Crosswipe, can come back to the field. Rematch summoning 2 dudes. Like I said, doesn't really lead to anything though. He can summon out his Jet Ogre, and if he likes, he can technically search for the spell card that gives this thing a bunch of attack and just beats over this. But if he does that, his deck runs out of sort of its gas a lot. That's like their main lethal piece. If I use it here for just sort of removal, that's, especially if I already have follow-up, it's just really bad. So he just does the correct play, searches for the Octo Stretch, which could keep him alive as a hand trap. But yeah, he's in a really rough sort of situation. MST is back row, got rid of my Crackdown. Cynet Mining, discarding my Mind Control, which is a shame. I kind of want to show a Mind Control replay, but for this situation, it was just better to play Debug. I actually don't think I showed a single replay where I got to Link Climb into by stealing my opponent's stuff, which is a shame. It's definitely happened a lot more in the a couple of times in the plat ranks, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. A couple of my other wins too, my opponent just conceded, happened too. Alright. Summon out the Decode Talker. Final time showing its animation. Alright. And unfortunately though, not enough materials to be able to summon out a Link 4 yet. But we do have a Crosswipe, so we can still pop any sort of Link 3 summons. Because again, we can just wait till Link 3s. He has a Kaiju in his deck list, which I was like, oh. Okay, interesting. I'm not too worried though, as I can just activate Recoder Alive, banish this one, summon out my Link 3, and still have a pop on the field, which is fine. And then I just have a 3000 attack monster, it's still there if I need it. But for some reason, he doesn't go for any sort of Link plays or any searching OTK sort of stuff. He just boosts this thing and then swings over it. Maybe he's just scared of the back row or something, I don't know. Summon my dude, doesn't matter, I'm just gonna use him as material. Recoder Alive, bring back the Link 3. And there's my 4 materials. And this was the play I was talking about during the decklist portion, where even if I'd already had a proper game this time, where I started off with my proper combo and I'd already used Firewall, there will be a situation where I can activate my trap card, banish this card from the graveyard, and special summon the Encode Talker from the extra deck, and I just have 3 materials. Or I just use the trap card and graveyard to summon back the Decode Talker to the field, and I'll just have a Link 3, and a top deck of 1 monster equals a Topologic, so... Yep. So my Topologic, nuke his card. And I can even use my Cynet Crosswipe to tribute this guy if I want to. And I'd still have the trap card summon back anyway, so... I'm feeling pretty safe. And he just concedes, he knows. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for today's replays. Hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, remember to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.